This week's Parsha is Parshas Tetzaveh. Parshas Tetzaveh discusses the vestments of the priest and the high priest, the various garments that they were required to wear in the tabernacle when doing their service. It's interesting, at the conclusion, at the list of how they're made and what they're made with and so on, it talks about the bells on the bottom of the garment of the priest, and the bells would make noise. They had like a little ring to them. Pamoin zahav remoin. There was a sequence of bells and ornaments on the bottom of his garment. And the verse states that he should have these bells in order that Nishma koila b'voya el HaKodesh, the voice, the sound should be heard as he enters into the holy places of the tabernacle, the lo yamus, and he shall not die. The connection between these two phrases seems strange. In fact, the Gemara says that these words, v'lo yamus, and he shall not die, is the source that a Kohen, a priest, that performs the service without one of the garments, missing one of the garments, is liable for death. A death penalty inflicted by God, not one inflicted by the court. But nonetheless, the fact that it's put right here, right at the point in time when the Torah is discussing the bells that made noise as he entered the holy places in the tabernacle, is interesting. The Seforno says that the reason why we have this noisemaker that we should know, or that someone should know, actually, I'm not sure who should know, that the Kohen is entering the holy places, is because that is the nature of a royal throne. A person who enters, of course, is announced, and he has to request to have an appearance with the king, and he has to, when he actually comes, they make room for him to approach the king, and there's heavy formality involved in meeting with the king. You don't just walk in, you don't just open the door to the throne and say, your royal kingship, I want this. You have to make an appointment, you have to walk in, they announce you, and we're all very, very familiar with the formalities of what it means to meet a king. But in the tabernacle too, we see that there was this idea. And the question really is, what was the purpose? And we see that the verse gives it so much severity. If a person is missing those bells, he's liable for death. Why is it so important to have these really meaningless formalities of being announced and wearing very specific clothing and so on? God knows what's in our heart. Shouldn't it be more about the way we feel, the way we are, the honesty that we have, not about the external appearances? And why specifically about the bells? What's so special about the bells that they made all of the difference? They were the place where we're going to say that you will not die when you enter in this way, that the bells make noise. So what we have to understand is that the entire service in the temple, in the tabernacle, was for our benefit. It wasn't for God's benefit. He doesn't care what clothing we wear, how fancy our clothing is, how exactly it's made, the gold, the wood, and all the specifications, the long list of specifications which made the tabernacle a visually impressive place, is not for God, it's for us. There is a verse in Tanakh which states, Akrivun olav sachecha. We give importance to these matters, and therefore we must act that way, the same way we would act with a king, with God, despite the fact that it means nothing to him, the actual formalities. But because for us, those formalities are the way we express our respect and our reverence to the authority, and in this case to God, we have to utilize those notions when we come before God. And they're treated with such severity because, if you think about it, if you think it's a straightforward and understandable and logical thing to do when you come before a king, well, how about before the King of Kings? And this is really a lesson for us about how we should approach coming to synagogue. Synagogue is a mikdash ma'at. It's a mini temple. And when we come in, we have to have the bells. We have to know that we have to have some reverence when we enter, understand that we're entering the presence of the King of Kings, and treat it with the proper respect. There is an interesting distinction that we see from this week's Parsha that I honestly hadn't really put my finger on it until this year. And that is something very straightforward and very simple. We have two brothers, Moshe and Aaron, both extremely devoted to the Jewish people. And one ends up as the leader of the Jewish people, and one ends up as the chief priest, as basically the main emissary of the Jewish people. Not in a leadership form. He wasn't leading people per se. He was representing them. Why did God see fit that Moshe should be the leader and that Aaron should be the emissary? What was specific about their strengths, their capabilities, that made God do it in this way? Why was this the heavenly design? Have a good Shabbos.